What if you could generate a week's worth of fresh, high quality content, researched, written, and ready to publish, all whilst you sleep? If you're anything like me, you've probably got no time to do any of that kind of stuff. But in this video, I'm going to show you how you can create your very own AI-powered content generation machine with zero coding. So for this build, we're going to be using NAN as the workflow automation tool. We'll be building out our automation within the canvas that we have there. Then we're going to be using Perplexity to actually do deep research on a particular topic that we want to write some content about. And then finally, we're going to be using Claude. You can use any other LLM that you want to actually generate the emails and prepare them for us. All SEO optimized as well. So let's get started. As always, we are in the NAN workflow canvas. First thing we need to do is create a trigger. Now this trigger could be anything that you wanted from an internal system that you have, like a trigger from a CRM. For now, we're just going to use a manual trigger just to sort of demonstrate this flow, but this can always be integrated with something a little bit more complex. So we're going to trigger it manually. That's absolutely fine. Next thing we want to do is we want to pull in some information from our CRM. Well, not necessarily a CRM, but really it's going to be our sort of like single source of the truth. So we're going to use this Google Sheet as our single source of the truth. This is also going to contain all of the configuration that we need for any particular blog. So this could be your trigger here, is actually changing some of the data in this particular sheet. But what we're doing in this configuration sheet is we're essentially giving us control over all the different things, all the different parameters that are going to be going into the different nodes within our workflow. So firstly, we can control the research topic. So for a particular week, I might want to be writing about sustainability and energy consumption in AI. It's quite a big topic at the moment. I can also specify my target audience. So the blog writing is going to tailor itself to the target audience. We've got our system prompt for the Perplexity model, for the research model, and we've got our system prompt for the email model as well. Now, I've used some of the basic rules that I outlined in one of my other videos. That's the top 5 LLM hacks. I've embedded some of those into these prompt templates that I've written here, but obviously this can be fine-tuned, this can be changed based on your use case. So we're going to be using this as our knowledge base, if you like. We've then got two other sheets, research, so this is where all the research is going to go, and we've got the blogs, this is where the blog content is going to go. You could also queue this up and then have another trigger at the end to then actually send this out to all your social media, but for now we're just going to focus on actually creating some content, and in this instance blog content. So we've got our trigger, now let's load up our sheet, because that is going to be what we want to use to kind of start everything off and to load the variables that we need. So we're going to get rows and sheets, choose our document, and we want the configuration sheet. So let's test this step. Okay, we got our data. This is what we wanted. So we've got 3 rows. We should have 4 rows. I know why we only got 3 rows. It is because it thinks that the first row is a header. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add in another row at the top. This could be, I don't know, variable and value. Okay, that should help us now. So if I run this again, that should give us all 4 variables that we want. So now I've got the 4 variables that I want from the 4 different rows in the configuration sheet. We've got the research topic, so this is the thing that I'm going to be asking the AI to write the blogs about. We've then got the target audience, we've got our research prompt and our email system prompt, so that's great. Now at the moment, that data isn't really in a usable format by NAN. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to transform this data into a format where we can actually output variables for each of those different rows, because at the moment NAN is going to sort of like treat it as each individual row individually, and it's going to try and loop through it, but we don't want to do that. So in this code node, we can basically run some code to save each of the rows as a variable, and then we can use them later on in the workflow. Okay, so what I've done here is I've pasted in a code snippet which will basically take all of the input from this previous node, and it will save all the variable names in a dictionary that we can then use for later on in the workflow. So let's run this. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Just to avoid this node rerunning over and over again, I'm going to pin this data. That should be useful. Now let's run this step. So when you run this code snippet, it will basically take all the different rows from the Google Sheets data that's come back, and it will save it in this dictionary here. And it will save it against variable names that are basically descriptive of what the actual row name was in the Google Sheet. So this is perfect. Now we can reference these in the rest of our workflow. So let me save this. Right, the next thing that we need to do is we can now start diving into the Perplexity API. So for Perplexity, Perplexity is an amazing tool. It's essentially a deep research AI assistant, agent, API that you can use. And you can give it a prompt, such as, I want you to research this company or this industry or this particular topic, and it will go out and it won't do sort of like a basic kind of like search based on its knowledge base, similar to how ChatGPT used to. It will actually go out and look for information on the internet, and it will conduct deep research. If you've got one of the paid versions of ChatGPT, you'll notice now that it has like a deep research module within it that you can enable. So it's actually very similar to that, but Perplexity were really the kind of pioneers in that kind of deep research area. So if you're looking to craft some content around a particular topic or a particular area of interest, Sonar by Perplexity can do exactly that. And it's really powerful, relatively cheap as well, especially if you're just doing it at a small scale, and will save you loads of time. So for reference, this is the API that we're going to use. Now, Perplexity doesn't have a built-in node within NAN, but that's fine. We can just make a HTTP request. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy the URL. I'm going to copy it from here. And we're going to make a post request. So let's change this to posts. Here's the URL. It wants us to pass our API key in the header, so that's absolutely fine. Let me copy these as headers. In fact, I'm just going to copy all this and then sort of butcher it when I get back over into here. Alright, so authorization, bearer token. Yeah. So I'll add my token in just a moment. Cool, that's fine, happy with that for now. And then it wants us to send a body as well. And the body needs to contain information about the model, so we're going to be using the Sonar model here, and then messages. So do we want to prompt the system with any kind of like contextual grounding information, and do we want to provide any sort of like a user prompt as well? So if I come back over to here, we want to send body, we want to send it as JSON, and I'm going to just write it in as JSON. So for this, I'm going to copy a snippet that I actually used before. So here is an example of the body that we can send. There's a whole bunch of parameters that I've kind of set here as well. Obviously you can play around with these, you can change them and tune them based on your needs. And you can see that I've just added like a template essentially for the system prompt and the user prompt. Now that's going to be useful because we're going to use some of the variables that we've loaded in the previous node for this as well. So if I open this up, I don't want it to be that big actually. Let's just leave it as it was. So for the system prompt, I'm literally just going to drag this in and put it there. For some reason it never puts the dragged stuff wherever you want it. Okay, that's behaving a little bit better now. Right, so we want the research system prompt here, and in the user prompt, essentially we're just going to pass it some information that we've specified that we're going to give it in the system prompt. So in the system prompt, if you have a look at it very quickly, it's giving some context, it's giving the role, research the topic statement provided. Okay, so essentially all I need to do in the user prompt is say, here is the topic statement that I want you to research, and then provide the research topic in here. Now the great thing about doing it this way is that you don't need to come into this workflow and change it every single time. You can keep the workflow running exactly how it is, especially once you've tuned it to your liking. All you need to do is then just change some of the data in this Google Sheet, and then you can fire off this workflow whenever you want, and it will work exactly how you intend it to. So it's perfect. So as you can see, we've now got the prompts. That all looks good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy my API key, put it into here, and then run this. Okay, so now it's run. We've gotten our research from Perplexity. Let's see what it's come back with. So if we take a look at the results, I did have to make a few tweaks in here to get it to work as I wanted. So the main thing that I had to do was when I was pulling in the system prompt, I just had to add this to JSON string method at the end of it. That got it to work exactly as I wanted. But if we have a look at the results, you can see there's a whole bunch of information that comes back from Perplexity here. Gives us the citations, gives us some search results of actual articles that it's actually found based on the search topic that we asked it for. And it's obviously summarized our research for us as well, which is amazing. Now, one thing to bear in mind with this particular system prompt is that there was a few constraints that I gave it. I wanted it to include all citations, and I wanted it to be no longer than 3,000 words. I also wanted for them to include 30 keywords that I can use for SEO purposes. So then the output should be in this format here, this kind of like JSON format that you can see. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to copy this because I'm going to use this in later on. So if I come back to the content, this is great. This is the research that I wanted, so I'm pretty happy with this. So what we're going to do from here is we're not going to worry too much about the formatting of all this information that's come from Perplexity, because all the information is actually exactly what we want. But what we're going to do is we're going to pass this on to the next part of the workflow, which is going to be the LLM, which is going to generate our blogs for us. But before we do this, let's go back to our Google Sheet, and we actually have this research tab here. So we're going to just paste all of this research information that it's come back with into this tab so that we can keep track of everything. So we're going to add a Google Sheet node. Got my caps lock on for some reason. Append row in the sheet. We're going to choose our sheet, and we're going to choose the research tab. So what we can do here is we can actually use some of the internal variables to populate some of this data. So we're going to put the now variable in the timestamp created. Research topic, we can take that from the code node. Target audience, similar, we can do that as well. And then research outputs. So the target audience wasn't actually used by the previous node, but that's going to be used by the next thing. And then I'm just going to pass this into a string so that it's somewhat usable. There are some other sort of like some more metadata that we hear as well. We might want to include that too, actually. So let's do this. So research citations, and then we can just put that into here as well. Yeah, that should be fine. So now if I run this, this should insert the data into our sheet. Okay, so it's having a problem with identifying which node is coming, which run the data is coming from the previous node. So what we can do, because there's only one item that's coming from the Perplexity node, we can just literally replace item with first, and that should solve our problem. Great, so that's pasted what we want into it. As you can see, we've now got a row of data. We've got the timestamp that this research was created, the research topic itself, the target audience, and then the research output. So we can always use this and refer back to this later. So that's great. Now, we want to start generating some blogs. So let's move this in line because I like to keep everything neat. And let's start creating our blog. So for this, we're going to use an Anthropic node. And for some reason, it always defaults to having a chat message received. I don't want that. I'm just going to connect it up to my previous node. There we go. We've got the Anthropic model. This node is going to be our content writing node. So just as before, we don't actually really need to do too much configuration here because everything is stored in the configuration sheet. We can literally just take what we have here and put it into the LLM chain node. So let's start configuring this. We're going to define the definition below. We want to add a system prompt, and this is going to come from the email system prompt node. Let's make that first. So now it knows which item to take. So this is the system prompt for this content generation node, which we're going to be writing blogs for. So it's letting them know the role, highly skilled blog writer, SEO expert, you're writing blogs for code creations. I've given them a chain of thought to follow in terms of the actual task that they need to complete as well. This really helps to improve the output from LLMs for sure. So I want you to fully understand the contextual data provided and the research. I want you to write 3 blogs. I want you to ensure that the blogs do not overlap in terms of content, because I want to be posting these in a sequence, and I want each one to kind of lead on from the last. I've given a whole bunch of rules as well, so the blog can't be longer than 1,500 words. It needs to be in English, no Americanisms, so no like Zs when there should be Ss, that sort of stuff. And it needs to be highly optimized for SEO purposes as well. So in the research that came from Perplexity, it should have included, let's have a look here. Within the content, it should have included research. It should have also have included citations, which it did. And finally, it should have included a whole bunch of SEO keywords as well. So just to double check, we're going to paste that in. So we've got the system prompt, that's fine. And then in the user prompt, we basically just want to provide the research that it needs to write the blogs based off of. Here is the research that you must use. And let me just check the email system prompt once again. Okay, so what I'm going to do, there's a few variables that I'm going to pull in. I'm going to put it under a header as well, actually. I'm going to put it under data. So we've got research topic, that is this. Once again, we're just pulling the first item from this because there is only one. We want the target audience. That's not going to be research topic, that's going to be target audience. And then we've got the research content. And we're going to provide basically everything that Perplexity came back with. This. So let's have a preview of this just to have a look at it quickly. So yeah, this is the information that I'm going to pass as the user to the LLM. Giving it the research topic, the target audience, that's fine, that's pretty expected. The research, so this is the actual research that Perplexity has conducted on the research topic, so all to do with sustainability and energy consumption. It's given a list of citations, so that's great, and most importantly, it's given a list of SEO keywords as well. So this is perfect, this is exactly what we wanted. Brilliant, okay, we've got everything that we need then in that case. The last thing to do is we're going to pass this into a specific format because we're then going to use it to then insert into the Google Sheet. We want it to be in a structured format. We don't want it to be coming back with anything. So we're going to go into the Anthropic model. You can choose whichever model that you want, of course. For now, let's go with Sonnet 3.5. That should be fine. And then in the output parser, you can test around and see which output parser works best for you. I've seen a lot of different methods of using output parsers in NAN. To be honest, the most robust one is actually having 2 separate nodes. So having an LLM chain and then having a separate node afterwards that is just focused on parsing. But for now, I've used the auto-fixing output parser quite a few times, and this works quite well. This is basically like a self-healing sort of like a mechanism. So it'll basically use an LLM model to decide whether the output that has been provided fits the output that you want. And if it does, then it will continue, but if it doesn't, then it won't continue. So what we need to do is we need to use a very similar structure to what I've specified here, because that's the structure that we want. So we want blog1, and that is just a string. And then we can just copy this twice, and then just make sure that the JSON is formatted correctly. Okay. Cool, that looks fine to me. So now we've got all the information, we've got the structured output parser. Let's run this and let's see how this turns out. Let's save it as well, why not? Okay, nice. It's finished running. So let's dive into this and see what's happened exactly. So the node ran, which is exactly what we want. And you can see in the output over here, it's written us 3 blogs. Blog 1, blog 2, blog 3. Okay. So actually made a slight mistake here. The last key value in the structured output parser basically was the same as the second, so actually it only output 2 blogs. So let's run this again, and it should give us 3 blogs this time, because before it only gave us 2 blogs. That was just a simple mistake. Okay, nice. It's come back, and this time we have our 3 blogs. Thank God. We don't have 2 blogs, we've got 3 blogs this time. If only AI was smart enough to pick up on the fact that I messed up and change it rather than just let me wallow in defeat. But anyway, we've got what we want, we've got the outputs, that all looks good. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's save it. So now the last thing really is to put this into our blog sheet, which currently is empty. So in a very similar fashion to how we did it last time, when we inserted it into the research sheet, we're literally just going to add a row here. It's really easy. Blog repository, and then we want it in the blogs table. For this, we're going to use the internal variable, timestamp now, and then for the research topic, that's going to come from code. That will be the first, once again, just to be very particular with NaN right now. Same again, we can use first, if I can spell it right. And the blog content, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to change this. This should be not blog content, this should be blog 1, and then I'm going to create 2 more columns. Blog 2, and then blog 3. That's better. So now, if I just save this, it should prompt me to refresh. There we go, you see columns are outdated, so it's picked up on the fact that I've added some more columns. The reason why we want 3 blog columns is now I can literally just drag these into the specific column, based on the number. Before, it only really allowed us to put in one value there, so this is much better. If I open this up and just have a look at it, yeah, I mean, it looks pretty good. Nice, short, snappy, it's got some nice headers. It's definitely on point in terms of the actual content, in terms of the brief that I gave it, the research topic. So yeah, this is great. And the key here is that, AI systems like this will constantly be improving and getting better over time, especially as you start to fine tune the configuration. So, you really nail down a prompt that works for you, the different topics, the parameters within the LLMs, all that sort of stuff. So it's not going to get it right first time, but as you start to adapt this to your business and to you as your brand, this is going to become hyper personalized and it's going to become really powerful. And not only that, you can add knowledge bases into it. Obviously within this automation, this is mainly focused around generating the actual content, but then within NaN and other automation tools, you can then even hook this up to your social media accounts, so to your LinkedIn, to your blogging platforms. Even if you wanted to create content for TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you can generate images and videos as well. So this is really just the start. And in some future videos, I'll be going through that kind of stuff too, the actual image and video generation for content as well. But this is perfect. This is a really good baseline. So what we need to do now is we just need to run this node, and then it should insert that data into our sheet. Perfect. Obviously, it makes it look a bit weird because obviously this content is much longer than the other content that we've got, but let me just move this row up. We've got timestamp, research topic, yep, and then we've got the 3 blogs as well. So that's great. So that pretty much rounds off this really quick and easy workflow that you can build. Definitely encourage you to use this template and to use this workflow within your own business and for your own brand. This can help to supercharge the amount of content, the amount of useful content that you're able to put out there. Even if you just wanted to use it for research purposes, to help you to get from ideation to an actual research topic quicker, then you should do that, because anything that can help you to get from A to B quicker in the same amount of quality, if not better, should definitely be used. So if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and let me know what else you'd like me to build in the comments below. On top of that, I've got a whole bunch of other videos all focused around AI, NaN, and even diving into some coding as well. So I hope to see you again here soon.